Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Rim 9000, a self-described hyperkinetic shooter. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. So a real quick disclaimer, if you happen to be photosensitive to flashing colors and patterns, this is a review I'd probably recommend skipping. That out of the way, Rim 9000 originally released on the PC in January of 2018 from developer Sonoshi. Fast forward to February of 2019 and we have this version, the PlayStation 4 version, the courtesy of Rainbite and East Asia Soft. Diving into the game itself, we start at this launch menu, and from here we can look at the high scores, we can look at the logs or the achievements that the game happens to have, and we can also go to the options. So the options give me a good opportunity to kind of explain a little bit of the interesting visual effects the game has. So there are a lot of experimental visuals and haywire motion going on with Rim 9000, and the game itself actually can be very visually overloaded with a lot of effects. There is the ability to turn them from on in the option menu to reduce, and you can even go and see the effect here in the option menu as it's all kinds of wigging out like it's glitched. We apply the reduced, and then suddenly things are a little bit more plain. But that said, there's still a lot of crazy visual effects in the game itself. So back to the launch menu, the game has 5 stages, and from here we can actually launch to any of the 5. And you can even do this before you've played any of the other stages in the game. My first time through, I accidentally launched to stage 2. Launching into the game itself, we're taken into this really unique vertical shooter that is as much of an experience as it is a game, I feel. So you've got this really awesome driving soundtrack and these visuals that in the first stage start out kind of normal, but then it just gets crazier from there. So as far as the gameplay is concerned, we've got a couple basic things we can do. As usual, we have the ability to move our ship around, and we can shoot. When we are shooting, there's a bit of a focus fire system involved, so you do move slower. If you need to escape from enemies like this bomber that just came in, we can do that by not firing, so we can outspeed him that way. So the game doesn't employ a typical life system. Instead, we have one hit that we can possibly take. I'll demonstrate that right here, which puts us into this critical state. In this critical state, we're actually powered up, but if we take another hit, we'll basically get a game over and be forced to start the stage again from the very beginning. After a little bit of time has passed, a plus icon will show up, and that plus icon will allow us to heal back to full strength. So that's a really forgiving system, and at the same time the game itself can be pretty difficult. There's also the ability to pick up 2 power-ups in the first 4 stages, and those power-ups can potentially change a little bit of your playstyle as they'll usually be different shots. So I picked the V shot as it's kind of really useful for the boss of the first stage, so hopefully I'll be able to have a good fight against him. But as far as the graphical presentation, with the effects turned off, the first stage is probably the most basic. And then the later stages actually get pretty crazy. Like stage 4, it's all kinds of motion blur. It's really neat, but sometimes it's really hard to go and parse. So I do enjoy the game better, for me personally, with the effects set to reduce. So that's basically everything that we have here with Rim 9000. It's a relatively straightforward game, but like I said, one of the best ways I can describe it is it's more of an experience. So diving right into the minus flavors of the game, there are a couple that I have. The primary one is with only 5 stages. It's actually relatively short. Although its price point is low, so that's not that big of a deal breaker, truth be told. And then the visuals for me personally, they can be a little bit overloading. There's just a little bit too much going on, and it's kind of hard to parse on with the effects turned on full, or even with some of the later stages where the effects get like kind of crazy, really. So one thing I do really like about RIM 9000 are these boss fights, where everything is kind of unique in that we have a couple different stages for each boss. For this one, we have to take out the supports holding them to this wall, and then we'll be able to move on to the second phase. In this, it might actually be better to drop myself into a critical state. Let's see if we can take it out without losing any life. So as far as the plus flavors are concerned, I really actually do like the boss fights. They're like all different and challenging enough, and it's fun learning the patterns of what's going on. So the second part of this fight, he's spitting out all these orbs that are turning into shots. So I did take a hit there, so we have to be careful not to take another one. Also, the game does employ combo system, but to be honest, I'm not really sure 100% how that goes and works, as it's hard enough for me to even parse what's going on visually, let alone like worry about trying to set any particular high scores. And then my other plus flavor for the game is it's just this incredible experience, the way that the music and the visuals kind of just combine together to create something that's like almost like this crazy trip. It's definitely worth your time to check it out just for that. And you can try it with the effects on full, see if that's what you like. But for me, this is kind of the way that I enjoy it, is just with the effects off. It still gets crazy. So there you have it. RIM 9000 served up for your enjoyment. This is definitely a title that I would give a recommendation to at least give it a try to. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.